Everybody, it's Steve Smith, editor of PHC News Magazine, coming again live at our booth here at AHR Expo. We just wrapped up a great interview with Hot Rod Roar, one of my favorite guys, and here's one of my well, I won't say second favorite. You're all good. You're all equal. But I'm really looking forward to this interview with Dan Foley, a master hydronics and heating contractor. And listen, I think everybody knows who the heck you are, but for the two people that don't, I just said that the same thing to Hot Rod. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? It's like here.
I'm Dan Foley. We've known each other for at least 25 years,
exactly.
maybe more.
Maybe longer.
I'm a mechanical contractor. I'm based out of Lorton, Virginia, which is about 15 miles due south of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
My market's the Delaware, D.C., Maryland, Virginia market.
Yes.
And we specialize in hydronic, radiant, steam.
Right.
We do everything. We do air conditioning, we do ductwork, full service, we do
right.
service replacement, but our specialty niche is hydronic, and our subspecialty is, I call them the Taj Mahals, the big custom houses,
right.
20, 30, 35,000 square foot houses.
I've seen those.
Yeah, and the niche is that the commercial guys have the capability to do it, but they don't want to deal with the architects, the engineers, the homeowners, the decorators.
Exactly.
Residential guys can't do
point.
it, so it's a niche that we've exploited. We have the capability to do the big custom mechanical systems, but also with the kid gloves to deal with the architects and deal with the homeowners and so forth, decorators.
As you said, I've seen many of your homes that you've done, and yeah, they're commercial installations, but they're a single family home.
Yeah, I think our largest to date is 42,000 square feet. That's basically a commercial project.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, Dan wrote a great article in our January issue, Visit to Lancaster, and we're kind of going to recount that. Anyone who hasn't read it yet certainly can. But Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your trip to Lancaster to see U.S. Boiler, and also you definitely saw a couple of new products that you want to talk about, the Alta combi and the SteamMax. So take it from there.
All right, but before we get into that, Burnham and I go back a long ways.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the summer of '87. I was a summer helper at Arlington Heating while still in school. First day on the job, we put in a Burnham Series 2 boiler.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, I had no idea what a boiler was, much less how to use a pipe wrench.
Right.
My only useful skill was to go to 7-Eleven and get coffee for the guys and carry the old sections out. That's about all I was good for that day. Since then, we've put in hundreds, if not hundreds, of Burnham products.
Yeah.
Back in the mid to late 90s, I was on their advisory council for a while, so I was up in Lancaster every year for numerous years. Last time I was there before this trip was, I want to say around 2007, 2008, maybe 2009, somewhere in that range. And I went up there with one of my mentors, rest in peace, Ross McDaniel, who I learned plenty about Burnham boilers. We went up there. Burnham was just dipping their toes into the condensing boiler market.
Right.
And they had opened a new manufacturing facility for their new product line. They were, at that point, up until then, known primarily as a cast iron boiler manufacturer, but the market was trending towards high efficiency condensing, so I went up there to see it.
Yeah.
That was, like I say, 12, 13 years ago. I'd not been up there since then. So I made a trip up there at the invitation of Michael Hooks. I was there in September of this past year, and it was eye-opening to see all the changes that had taken place in the 12 years since I'd been to Lancaster.
Absolutely. So last time you were there, they were dipping their toes in condensing boilers, yeah?
Correct.
And the example of that would be the Alta combi. Alta.
No,
I never can say that word.
No, that wasn't available 12 years ago. That's what was available this recent.
Right.
Yeah.
They're dipping their toes in that, and now 12 years later,
now they've come
here it
out
is.
with state-of-the-art technology that has changed dramatically in the 12 years since I was last up there.
Well, tell us more about the trip that you took and what
so
you saw.
I live about maybe 2 hours, so I got up early, drove up to Lancaster. I'd been to some of the facilities, but the building I went to first wasn't there. Well, maybe the building was, but they weren't. It wasn't part of Burnham's portfolio at the time. That was their R&D facility and marketing offices. So we went first to their R&D facility, and before we got to the Alta combi sidebar, I saw a product that caught my eye. I do a lot of steam work.
Yes.
And I saw this as a steam boiler, but I knew it was not an independent. So it was a gas-fired steam boiler, and Michael kind of chuckled because he knew I was into steam and introduced me to the new SteamMax boiler. Brand new technology to an old application. So they've redesigned the independence boiler, made some improvements, made some changes, wider sections. They removed the pins above the waterline to help prevent corrosion. They have stainless steel in-shot burners, multiple risers from the intermediate sections to increase the decrease the steam velocity, increase the dry steam. So they've made some changes to make a good product and make it better. And that caught my eye. I've got a project lined up now where we're going to use the SteamMax, but I haven't had the opportunity to put it in just yet. I'm looking forward to it.
But the point being, I mean, steam that's old school.
It is. Now
I live in like a dying market in a way.
In a way, I live in a metropolitan market with housing that was built from 1890 to 1920, and that's what I call the core of the steam market. Now there's some steam here and there after that, but 1890 to 1920, housing built in that time frame, a lot of it had steam. Now there's areas downtown DC, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Arlington, Alexandria, that have housing stock in that time frame, so we still do a lot of steam in my market. I realize other markets don't see any steam. We still have a lot in the DC metro area.
But the point being that there's a company that's really investing in a boiler for that application,
Yeah, imagine that. Putting the R&D, the technology, the engineering, the marketing into a product that is going to be maybe level or declining over time. That shows their commitment to the steam market.
That's no small feat.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Alta, for example, because I know you did install that. You're hoping to do an installation on SteamMax. We can talk maybe more about that one, but what was going on with the installation of the Alta that you liked a lot? I mean, what sticks in your mind about that installation that you write about here?
Well, first, when they invited me up there, I didn't know anything about the Alta. So I downloaded the brochure and took a quick glance at it so I'll be somewhat coherent about what this product was and what it did. Then when I got there, they sat me down and did a short presentation of it. But, Steve, I'm hands-on. I can watch a video presentation all day long and it won't connect. I got to put my hands on it. I got to feel it, look at it. So then we went to the facility. They gave me a toolbox and let me have at it. I'm sure I probably broke something, but I took it all apart, put it back together in minutes, had it up and running, played with the combustion, tested it out. So now I could see what the capabilities of this boiler, what they are. And what it is, it's a condensing 95% boiler, but built into it, it also has the combi feature, the domestic hot water feature. So I had a job where it was a perfect application. It's a new construction house in McLean, Virginia, but it had a detached apartment/pool house, slab on grade with all radiant. Then it had an apartment above it, so we needed to heat it with radiant, needed to heat it with a fan coil in the apartment. We needed to provide domestic hot water for a bar sink, for a pool shower, and then a full bathroom in the apartment. So that was a perfect application where I needed heat, and I needed domestic hot water, and I needed it in a compact space. So this was in a closet. So imagine a pool house. I don't have a huge mechanical room, slab on grade, no basement. This is the perfect application. Takes up very little space and can combine all the features of heat and domestic hot water in one.
So a lot of firepower in a relatively small unit.
And you got to understand these jobs, we're fighting with the architect over real estate. They don't want to give us a huge mechanical room. And if they give you too much room, the owner's going to step in and take over and say, I want that for storage. I always say, do you want storage or do you want heat? Pick one. You don't get both. So, but in this case, we were able to fit it into a very tight package to do all that. If you imagine a cast iron boiler or a regular tank style water heater, that takes up a footprint. Now imagine all that mounted on the wall. All that real estate.
I was going to ask you that. So, I mean, that would be the alternative.
Yes.
A cast iron and a hot water tank.
Hot water heater. That's one way of doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's old school technology. It's solid. It's reliable. It's not cutting edge technology. This one was, and more importantly for this client, was space savings. Every square inch I could save them was a bonus for them.
Well, it sounds like a great system. Now, I'm kind of curious. Is there any magic to the controls of this unit? System?
Because
it's different.
If you go back 20 years ago to when condensing technology first came out, the Achilles heels were the control systems. And that they've gotten better over time. This is state of the art, okay? A couple reasons. First off, I've got one guy, Brian, you've met. He's a flamehead. He has 3 combustion analyzers. He can dial in any burner. He can walk any burner on any job, dial it in. That's a rare skill. Not all my guys have those skills. Imagine the combustion analyzer built into it. So it automatically adjusts for changes in airflow, gas pressure, even as the heat exchanger over time clogs up. It accounts for that and adjusts the combustion so you have optimum flame, optimum combustion parameters at all times.
Okay.
Imagine a combustion analyzer built into the boiler. That's what this feature has.
So I'm assuming like the old cast iron, lot more forgiving, I guess. Is that way of putting it?
Well, lot more forgiving, but there's a lot less adjustment. There's only one thing you can really adjust, is the gas pressure.
Right.
You can't adjust the air. It's natural draft.
Right.
Whereas on a condensing boiler, you can adjust all kinds of things. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to have the right technology, the right tools, and know how to do it. Right. Not everybody has that. So even though this technology is built into that, Brian still tested it out with this Testo 330 combustion analyzer.
I think Brian's in here.
There's Brian says there. He is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the best when it
Brian
comes. Brian Golden. That's right, my lead tech.
Right here.
So there he is right there. He's got a combustion analyzer testing it.
Yeah.
So even though it has that technology built in, we're still going to test it out to make sure
that
something's not terribly off. And it allows maybe a junior tech that doesn't have Brian's capabilities to install this and know that it's done properly.
Okay.
It's going to burn cleanly, safely.
I just want to go back to the tour when you first saw the Alta. And again, we're talking about the transition that U.S. Boiler made from traditional cast iron to condensing. I mean, what did they learn along the way? I guess. I mean, what from a manufacturing perspective, what did they have to know differently? Or
well, I don't want to be able to speak for Burnham. I can speak from an outsider looking in. Is that I don't think anybody realized that how quickly and how pervasive that the condensing boiler technology was going to take over the market.
Okay.
I think it's the majority right now.
Yeah.
But I don't think cast iron will ever go away unless it's mandated by DOE. That could always happen. You never know what's going to happen. They can mandate 90% is the minimum. Cast iron's going to be pretty much out the window. There are some technologies that use cast iron and they're still condensing, but that's a rare outlier.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody anticipated how quickly the condensing technology was going to take over the market.
Right.
And now, like I say, it went from dabbling in condensing to being a market leader and realizing that is going to be the future of heating technology. Yeah.
Right. So they're not certainly forgetting about cast iron. They still make that.
Correct. And I just want to be clear that I'm not speaking for Burnham. I'm an outsider looking at that. Yeah.
So what can you tell us about the SteamMax? Because I know you mentioned that you might have an installation in mind. What would be that installation? What's the application?
Well,
there?
this is a project in Warrenton, Virginia. It's an old stone house. So it was built in 1930. Okay, and it's got an existing Burnham boiler that's probably 35 years old, and I'll use the term it's earned its retirement.
Yeah.
It's hanging on by a thread, and so as soon as we can get that SteamMax, but it's a large. So you think typically residential boilers maybe capping out at 250 to 300,000 BTUs. This is 550,000 BTUs, so it's really delving into the light commercial marketplace.
Okay.
But that's where this product shines. They make it. I think it goes from 80,000 up to 600,000 BTUs, so it's got quite a range. So this is the project. It's a large residential house. It was built in 1930. It's about maybe 6,500 square feet. You got to keep in mind, it's got stone walls, no insulation. Still has the original single pane windows. Very little mineral wool insulation in the attic. So the house needs work to begin with, but really with steam, you're sizing it to the connected load, to the radiators and the pipes, not necessarily to the house and the heat loss, which you do for a hot water system. That's the difference. So that's the project, and as soon as I can get my hands on a SteamMax, it's going in.
And I'm curious, the SteamMax is your answer, but what other alternative did you have for this job before you learned about the SteamMax?
I would have probably used the Independence, which I've put in hundreds of them. It's a good boiler. There's nothing wrong. And I think, at least for the short term, they're still going to carry that Independence boiler. And again, there's nothing wrong. They've taken a good product and improved upon it.
Okay.
And so I want to be clear on that. But yeah, if we would have used an Independence, but or something in the light commercial range, like the series. I think it's a Series 5, light commercial.
Okay.
Or something like that, atmospheric light commercial. Commercial.
And is there any magic to the controls of the SteamMax that you could talk about?
SteamMax uses a very similar electronic ignition type thing. There's nothing special on that.
Okay.
Nothing unique. That's old school, but it's more the castings and the intermediate risers off the sections that improve the steam flow that were the biggest changes they made with the SteamMax.
How so? What can you break that down?
Sure. Okay. So when you got a boiler producing steam, the more risers you have, the more evenly the steam will flow out. So think of it like someone yells fire in a movie theater. What happens? Everyone tries to crowd out one entrance.
Yes.
If you have two entrances or three, it's going to go smoother. So that's what happens with the SteamMax.
Good analogy.
Instead of one outlet, you can have two, or maybe in a large section, maybe four. This 550 that I put in would probably have four risers go into a 4-inch header. So what it does is lets the steam escape smoothly and evenly. Dry steam, not pull the water up with it. Wet steam's no good. Wet steam doesn't heat very well. You want dry steam. So the more risers, the slower the steam flow, the drier the steam, the better the heat.
And I'm curious about your tour. I mean, obviously you came away with two fairly new products that are here at the show. Is there anything in the works from U.S. Boiler that you can talk about? Or?
Yeah, well, a couple things caught my attention. Was we went and actually walked the manufacturing floor, and since the 12 years I'd been out there, they've really improved the layout, the workstations. Everything seemed to flow smoothly through production, through packaging, loaded to the loading dock, ready to go to the warehouse for shipment. And when I was there in September, mid-September, the warehouse was loaded from floor to ceiling with product ready to go out. And as Mike pointed out, in a couple weeks, all that product would be out the doors on 40-foot tractor trailers headed all over the U.S. to distributors, to the end users. So I'm sure that warehouse is empty by now.
So the manufacturing process is that much more
that caught my attention. Yeah, and I know nothing about manufacturing, but I can say you can see a well-oiled machine when it's working, and I can see that everything was proceeding smoothly.
So
talked to some of the technicians that were putting the boilers together. I wanted to grab some of the tools and help them out, but they wouldn't let me. Well, good choice.
So U.S. Boiler's got some good products and good ways of making those products and shipping them out the door in your hands when you need them.
Well, yeah, because if I don't have it, I can't put it in. So.
Well, let's wrap this up. I mean, one last question would be, I mean, I know you've been walking the show. What have you seen anything new and exciting that you can talk about?
Yeah, so I think the trends long-term is going towards electric.
Electric.
So I was looking at some air-to-water heat pumps.
Heat pumps,
And we've tried some with varied success. One manufacturer pulled out of the market and left us hanging with dead product.
Yeah.
That's no good.
Oh.
So there's always going to be bumps and steps along the way, and
Right.
you got to you know what they say, the pioneer's the one with the arrows in his back.
Yeah.
So you got to try, but I think it may be mandated by government that fossil fuels might be out the window. I'm not talking about next year or the following year. I'm looking long term. So I picked up on some of that.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how crowded the show was. I expected it to be maybe half. This is the first show back since Orlando 2 years ago, the pandemic. I know a lot of people that I talked to just weren't coming here.
Yes.
But I was pleasantly surprised at how crowded it was here in Las Vegas. The show, it's not like it was, what here last 2017, or it's not like Chicago with 80,000 people.
Yeah, that was huge.
But it's just heartening to know that people are out and about again, doing business and interacting that we hadn't seen in 2 years.
It's good to be back, I'm sure.
Likewise.
Goes for everybody. Well, good. On that note, let's end it. It's a good way to end the interview. Thanks again for coming by.
Steve, pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little bit of a break again, and we'll be back with some more interviews. Stay tuned.